Okay, we are now starting with a new topic, that is the arbitrage pricing theory and multi-factor models of risk and return. Before starting this topic, I would like to revise what we have done with the previous topic of CAPM. There we have understood that there is one single factor, that is market portfolio. Okay, every investor is investing into the market portfolio, and how the risk of a particular asset is dependent upon the market is systematic risk, remember, and that systematic risk is calculated via beta. So if I want to calculate the return of the equity or the required rate of return from that particular asset, how I used to calculate, because I need RF plus the premium in order to take that risk, that is return from the market minus RF multiplied with the beta. If my beta is equals to 0, then means what, I'm investing in the risk free asset. If my beta is equals to 1, means I'm investing in the market portfolio, and if my beta is greater than 1, I'm investing in a risky asset. If my beta is less than 1, means I'm investing in asset safer as compared to the market but risky as compared to the government bonds. Clear? So in this we are using a single factor, that is market portfolio. But do you think that a single factor will help you to attain the required result? Because there are many factors which can impact the return of the equity. It can be oil prices, it can be inflation, it can be unemployment rate, it can be GDP. Okay, it can be the commodity prices. So how all these are impacting my equity return, we have to consider them. So this topic is saying about don't rely on the single factor, rely on multiple factor. Clear? So I have given you a brief that what we are trying to do. This topic is basically an extension of our CAPM. In the CAPM, we are using a single factor, but in this topic, that is multi-factor model, we are using the different and many factors. And based on those factors, we are calculating the return. Clear? So now we are using a different method of finding out the expected return. CAPM is also giving me the expected return, but now we want to refine our research and we move from CAPM to arbitrage pricing theory. This is also used for calculating the expected return, but in a different manner. So first of all, we will see the relationship between the CAPM and the APT. The first relationship is that they both are linear in nature. They both are linear in nature. The relationship between the variable are linear. Clear? Second, they both assume that the risk is systematic in nature. Write it down. They both assume that the risk is systematic in nature. This is the similarity between APT and CAPM. Now, what is the difference between APT and CAPM? CAPM is a single factor model, but APT is a multi-factor model. Multi-factor model. Now, what is that single factor? That particular single factor is a market portfolio. That particular single factor is a market portfolio. But in APT, the single factor can be financial indices. It can be financial indices, and it can be one or many financial indices. It is not strict that you have to take one or two or you have to take this and that. It is completely dependent upon you which indices you want to take. Means they are not giving you a strict indices that you need to take, or you can take macroeconomic variable. You can take macroeconomic economic variable. Now CAPM tell itself that I am a model. I am a model because there is a strict rules that you have to use that only, that you have to use RM, you have to use RF, you have to use beta, and I will calculate the expected return. But APT is not a model. It is just a theory which is explaining the process of taking the or finding out the expected return. Now it is completely dependent upon the analyst that what indices he choose and the what macro variables he takes. CAPM is completely strict with what he wants, but APT is giving the analyst the chance to use whatever inputs he want to take. There is no particular research on that you have to use this only. So it is completely up to the analyst. Now analyst can use the statistical methods to check whether the inputs he have taken is correct or not, but that is possible only via statistically. There is no strict models or strict rules or strict way to find out the expected return. So this is the difference. CAPM is a model, but APT is just a theory. It is telling you the process, but inputs you have to use of your own. The variables are also of your choice, but in the CAPM the variables are not of your choice. Clear? Now our CAPM is an equilibrium model. CAPM is an equilibrium model which says that the expected return is equals to the required rate of return. Okay, this I have discussed with you previously. Means there is no mispricing. There is no mispricing, and if there is any mispricing, it will take the moments, it will take small moments to just make the price of the stock equal to its intrinsic value. What our aim is to make the price of the stock equal to its intrinsic value so that the expected return and the required rate of return are equal. Similarly, they are using APT is using the concept of arbitrage. Similarly, APT is using the concept of arbitrage, which is saying that if I am talking about a security, there should not be any arbitrage opportunity, and if it is there, it will vanish quickly. What is the meaning of the term arbitrage? Meaning that I can take the profit without any risk. I can take the profit without any risk, and that is possible if there is any mispricing. So arbitrage pricing theory assumes that there is no possibility of any abnormal returns or any risk free returns. Okay, there are no mispricing in the asset. So they both are similar in this respect, that it is also an equilibrium and it is saying that I am arbitrage free. So at the end they want to convey the same thing, that there is no mispricing in the valuations of the assets. Clear? So can I say the only difference between CAPM and APT is that CAPM is a single factor, APT is a multiple factor. CAPM is a model, but APT is just a theory. Clear? Now, taking our discussion ahead, this is our equation of CAPM. Now APT is extending this equation. How? That is required return of the equity or the expected return of that particular asset. Okay, I am just assuming it's equity, that is equals to RF plus, now one factor is RM. Suppose one factor is RM, or we can say, let us not use the RM, let us use the GDP. Our one factor is GDP. So the beta 1 plus the another factor is suppose inflation minus RF beta 2 plus R, let us assume that it is unemployment rate minus RF beta 3. Similarly, we can use many numbers of factors, just like I have used GDP, inflation, unemployment. I can include some indices as well, just like S&P 500 or some bond index or some commodity index, depending on what I am actually finding out. Depending on what I am actually finding out. Suppose you want to find out the price of the commodity. You want to find out the price of the commodity. For that, you need the return from that particular commodity. So it is better to take the commodity index because that will reflect more. That will be more similar to the expected return of the commodity rather than taking the interest rate, because that index will eventually takes into account all the factors which are related to the commodity. Clear? So don't make yourself confused that what factor should we choose. The choice of the factor is completely dependent upon what asset you are trying to price. Clear? Suppose I'm giving an example that if you want to price a bond, so what are the factors you can include? Interest rate, bond indices, GDP, because economy is also important. Then G spread, the spread between the corporate bonds and the government bonds. So all these factors will be helpful in order to derive the value, the price of that particular bond. Similarly, if you want to price some other asset, suppose you want to price some real estate, so it is better to take into account those indices which are related to the real estates, that is REITs. So you prefer the REITs more. Then you prefer the per capita income, per capita income, because it will, if it will increase, the demand for the land will also increase. The economy condition, that is GDP. If the economic condition is improving, people will start building the factories, they will start building their houses, so the demand will increase and the price of that security will also increase. So it is completely dependent upon the analyst as to what factors we need to take into account. Now the way I have explained you here is somewhat related to the CAPM, but our author of this topic have not discussed the thing like this. I have just tried to relate it you, but the real equation I will share with you, but this is just for the basic understanding, the basic knowledge as what we are doing. Clear? Now here you can put one note 1, write down. If investor is looking for a clear cut, if investor is looking for a clear cut and direct calculation, if investor is looking for a clear cut and direct calculation, then APT might not be the best fit. Then APT might not be the best fit. Factors need to be checked on a periodic basis. Factors need to be checked on the periodic basis. Now try to understand why I need to check the factors on the periodic basis. These are my factors. And why I need to check them periodically? Because market is very dynamic. Okay, market is changing. So don't you think that I have to check my pricing method? Because if market will change, my pricing method will become obsolete. So I need to say remove this, might I need to remove this depending upon the correct market situation, and I need to include some other factors, or I might exclude the GDP portion and I should include some other factors into account. Clear? Just like inflation, because might be the inflation is going very high, so I should include that inflation into the bond pricing. So it should be checked periodically based on the market scenario. Okay, yeah, come back to the notes again, what I was writing. Factors need to be checked on a periodic basis, and factor sensitivities. What is the factor sensitivity? Beta is the factor sensitivity. You also need to check your beta. It's not only that you are checking the factors, you also need to check the sensitivity. What is beta? It is sensitivity, that how much that particular return is sensitive to this part. Who is telling? Beta is telling. Who is telling you that GDP is sensitive to the bond pricing, and how much it is sensitive? How much is the beta? Beta will tell you the how much sensitive I am. Need to be updated on a regular basis. So means you need to periodically check your factors as well as your beta, which is your sensitivity. Clear? Okay, let us work little bit on understanding that beta is the real sensitivity. Clear? Now, expected return, I'm just using the CAPM. Okay, expected return is equals to RF plus expected return of the market minus RF. Now, why we are not using the expected RF? Because we know that for the given time period, what is the risk free rate, but we don't know the return of the market, so we are using the expected return, and at the end we have the beta. Clear? Now suppose our RF is given as 4% and expected return of the market is given as 10%. This is the details we will be having in our hand. And suppose first the beta is equals to 1. In that scenario, what will be our expected return? It will be 4 plus 6 multiplied with the 1. That is, my expected return is equals to the return of the market. My expected return is equals to the return of the market. Why? Beta is equals to 0. What if my beta is equals to 0? Then expected return will be equals to 4%, means I have invested in the risk free asset. Clear? What if my beta is equals to 2? In that scenario, 4 plus 6 multiplied with the 2, that is 16%. Clear? So who is affecting my expected return? It's beta. Beta is the sensitivity. Higher the beta, higher the expected return. Suppose my beta is 0.5, then 4 plus 6, 0.5, that is 7%. So if beta is low, you can see that expected return is also lower. So this is what? This is your sensitivity, and I call it as an amplifier. If you want to increase something, beta will increase it if beta is higher. If you want to decrease something, take the lower beta, it will decrease your return. Clear? So this sensitivity, understand it as an amplifier of something. If your amplifier is very high, it will make more noise. If your amplifier is very slow, it will reduce the noise. Clear? So now I am considering for further understanding as this part. This part I am taking for further understanding. That is, my RF is equals to 4%. Expected return from the market is 10%. My beta is equals to 2. So what is the expected return of the asset? Is equals to 4 plus 10 minus 4 multiplied with 2. It is giving me 16%. Clear? Now I am moving into the direction of the author now. This is what we have studied in the CAPM, but now we will go through the arbitrage pricing theory and what author is actually saying. Now try to understand, this one is our expected market return. Clear? So I got the expected return from that asset. They both are expected return of asset. But what if when I will get the actual return of the market? What if I will get the actual return of the market? Write down, what if I will get the actual return from the market? Write down the answer. Still the return of the asset will be expected. Still the return of the asset will be expected. Why? Why? Now I will answer this. Because because there is some unsystematic risk, because there is some unsystematic risk present in the asset, present in the asset, which I am not calculating. So if there is some unsystematic risk present in the asset and I am not calculating this, this means what? Even if you are using the actual return of the market, the return of the asset is still expected, because you are not taking into account the unsystematic risk. So means, sir, if we will take into account the unsystematic risk, I will get the actual return of the asset. Yes, you will get the actual return of the asset. Write down. You will get the actual return of the asset. You will get the actual return of the asset if you will take, if you will take unsystematic risk, unsystematic risk into account. If you will take unsystematic risk into account. So we will get one more difference between the CAPM and the APT. What? APT is giving me, APT is giving me actual return of the asset, actual return of the asset. APT is giving me actual return on the asset, and on the other hand, and on the other hand, and on the other hand, CAPM, CAPM is giving, and on the other hand, CAPM is giving the expected return of the asset. Clear? Now let us write that equation again. Expected return of the asset I is equals to RF plus expected return of the market minus RF multiplied with the beta. And what values we have used? That is 4 plus 10 minus 4, 2, that is 16%. But now suppose my actual market return is 12%. I got my actual market return 12%. In that scenario, what is the expected return of the asset? It is equals to 4 plus 12 minus 4 multiply with the 2, 4 plus 8 into 2, that is 20%. Clear? Now what author is doing, he is not using this method. He is not using this method. He have converted the format of calculating. But still you will get the same answer, but the way of writing the thing changed. So author is saying that you want to calculate new return. Okay, I will give you the method to calculate the new return. That is 20%. So he is saying that use your previous return. Use your previous return. What is my previous return? 16%. Plus, what is the difference between actual and expected market return? The difference is 12 minus 10. What is the beta? 2. So 16% plus 2 to 4%, giving you 20%. So he just invented a new way of calculating the expected return. They both are same. They both are same. Just the pattern of writing will differ. So what is the new expected return? What is the new expected return? That is the expected return old plus the actual return, actual return of market minus expected return of the market multiplied with the beta. Clear? So this is giving me the new expected return of the asset. But sir, you are saying that APT is giving me the actual return, not the expected return of the asset. So he said, okay, just modify and add an error term. Just modify and add an error term. Now what is this error term? Error term is the unsystematic risk. So if you'll add the error term, your return, your return will become the actual return. Your expected return will become the actual return when you will add an error term. Write it down. Your expected return, your expected return of the asset, your expected return of the asset will become actual return when you will add error term, and that error term is nothing but the unsystematic risk. Clear? So you are taking the systematic risk, you are taking the unsystematic risk. So what you will get in real? Your actual return of that particular asset. Clear? Now write down few important points. Mean of error term will be equals to 0. Mean of error term will be equals to 0. Clear? Are you getting the point? Now we will refine it in a better way, that what author is actually saying. He is saying that this portion he is writing it as a factor. He is writing it as a factor or shock, or shock. You can also see that this is somewhat similar to a shock. The shock between the actual and the expected. The shock between the actual and expected. Clear? So how he is actually presenting the equation? The actual return of the asset is equals to expected return of the asset plus beta multiplied with the factor 1 plus error term of that asset, plus error term of that asset. What is F? What is F? F is nothing but the shock. F is nothing but the shock. F is factor. F is factor. Clear? And that shock is nothing but the difference of actual minus expected value. Now if the question will come, you can easily find out the expected return of the asset based on the given formula. Now sir, you are talking about that this is a multi-factor model. Yes, this is a multi-factor model. This part will keep on adding, means expected return of the asset is equals to plus beta 1 factor 1 plus beta 2 factor 2 plus beta n factor n plus error term. So here you can have many betas and many factors. Clear? Now it can include the GDP. Suppose this factor belongs to GDP, this factor belongs to interest rate, this factors belongs to inflation. Based on that, I am calculating the return of that particular asset. Clear? So now I just want you to just pause the video and just go through once whatever we have done till now, because I want that your concepts need to be cleared. If concepts are not perfectly cleared, we cannot move ahead. So pause the video and just think, just close your eyes and think what we have studied till now and how we came to this equation and how we came to this equation. Clear? Now the assumptions of the arbitrage pricing theory is somewhat similar to what we have in our CAPM. That is, the markets are frictionless. That is, there is no transaction cost, there is no taxes. Okay, you can do the short selling whenever you want. there is no arbitrage opportunities. There are no arbitrage opportunities, and if there are arbitrage opportunities, it will be exploited by those investors, those who want to maximize their profit. Clear? So in the question, if they will say that there is no arbitrage opportunity, it can be incorrect, because there can be arbitrage opportunities, but if there are arbitrage opportunities, it will be exploited by the investors in order to maximize their profit. Clear? The third assumption is that market participants are seeking to maximize their profit. So there are three assumptions. One, the markets are frictionless. Second, there are no arbitrage opportunities, and if there are, it is exploited by the investors to get extra profit. And the third is market participants are seeking to maximize their profit. So we have three assumptions of APT. Clear? Apart from this, few important points with respect to F. The expected value of the F is also 0, because it's a shock. If I'll draw the line like this, and these are the shocks, sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes up, sometimes down. So cumulatively, if you will see plus minus, it will become 0. So expected value of the F is 0. Clear? Expected value of the error term is also 0. Correlation between F and E is also 0. Means the F and error term are not correlated, because this take into account the systematic part and this take into account the unsystematic part. Means I don't want that any unsystematic risk will remain in my error term, because if there is systematic risk, this is also systematic risk, then I should include it here rather than keeping it into the error term. So the correlation between the factor and the error term is 0. So we have seen that it is up to the analyst that what factors he or she want to include in their pricing model. So there are some suggestions, okay, and that suggestion is by the Chen, Rolls and Ross. He have suggested 4 factors when you are creating the APT model. This is just a suggestions, okay. Now it is up to the analyst, whatever he want he can keep. Now what is the first factor which he is suggesting is the industrial production. Write it down. Industrial production. Second, the spread between the second point he is taking into account is the spread between the high risk corporate bond and the low risk corporate bond. You can write down the spread between high risk corporate bond and low risk corporate bond. Third is our expected return versus unexpected inflation. Third point is inflation. That is expected. What is your expected inflation and what is unexpected inflation? Clear? Fourth one is the interest rate. The difference between the short term and the long term rates. The difference between the short term and long term rates, or you can call it as an yield curve, because yield curve is discussing about the short term as well as the long term. So if you will consider the yield curve in your calculation, you can find out the difference between the short term and the long term rates. Clear? Now the last point is that I am calculating the actual return. I am calculating the actual return with the help of APT. But do you think that this return will be actual in the future? No. The return can deviate. The return, suppose I have calculated the return of 7%, but in reality it can stay 9%, it can stay 4%. So the actual return which we are calculating, though we are using the systematic and unsystematic risk, but the real return in the future can deviate from the return which we have calculated in the APT. Clear? This is the last concluding point of the APT. Now the same thing with respect to the CAPM. Buy the securities whose expected return is greater than the required return. Similarly, APT is saying that if my model is showing the return of 8%, but according to the price of that asset you are getting 10%, so buy it until it will become 8%. Or if the actual price in the market is showing 6%, but my model is showing 8%, start short selling it until it will reach 8. Clear? Now when I am saying that expected return is 10% means the price is lower, and when you will buy, the price will become high and the expected return will become 8%. When I'm saying that expected return of the asset is 6% means the price is very high. If you'll start short selling it, the price will fall and the return will become, expected return of the asset will become 8%. Clear? So I will keep this much in this lecture. In the next lecture I will start from here onwards. Thank you.